Welcome to our podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. I want to start today's episode with something I read recently. The sentence was surprisingly simple. It said, most people don't ruin their lives all at once. They do it gradually.
That's uncomfortable, because it sounds true.
Exactly. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, you know what? I'd like to make my life worse today.
Most people are trying to do the opposite.
Right. People want better health, better relationships, more confidence, more happiness. And yet, sometimes years go by, and somehow life feels smaller, not bigger.
Because destruction is usually quiet.
What do you mean?
People imagine destruction as something dramatic, a disaster, a crisis, a huge mistake. But many forms of self-destruction are almost invisible.
Invisible?
Yeah. They're small enough that they don't feel dangerous. At least not today.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Ignoring something you know needs attention. Just once. Not a big deal. Then doing it again tomorrow. And the next day. And the next month.
So the danger isn't the action itself, it's the repetition.
Exactly. Most people underestimate repetition.
What's the most common way people slowly damage their lives?
I don't think it's laziness.
Really? A lot of people would probably say laziness.
I know. But I think it's something deeper. I think it's avoidance.
Avoidance?
Avoiding difficult conversations. Avoiding difficult decisions. Avoiding uncomfortable truths. Avoiding responsibilities. Avoiding uncertainty. Avoiding the things that could actually change our lives.
That's interesting, because avoidance often feels harmless.
Exactly. That's why it's dangerous. Most destructive habits feel good in the short term. That's what makes them attractive.
If they felt terrible immediately?
Nobody would do them.
Exactly. You know, this reminds me of something. Sometimes people talk about creating the life they want, but very few people talk about creating the life they don't want.
That's a fascinating observation.
Because whether we're paying attention or not, we're still building something. Every day.
Absolutely. Every action is a vote.
A vote?
A vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Not who you wish you were. Not who you plan to be someday. Who you're becoming right now.
That's powerful. And honestly, a little uncomfortable.
The truth often is.
What's one lie people tell themselves that causes a lot of damage?
I'll start later.
That's a popular one.
Very popular.
Because later feels responsible. It feels reasonable. It feels harmless. But the problem is that later often becomes a permanent location. People don't decide to give up on their goals. They postpone them. Again and again until years pass.
That's a scary thought.
What's scary isn't that time passes. Time always passes. What's scary is realizing that you've been waiting for a version of yourself that was never coming.
Wow.
A more confident version. A more motivated version. A more disciplined version. A version that somehow wakes up one day and finds everything easy. But that's not usually how change happens.
Then how does it happen?
Often, it begins with an honest conversation. The kind most people avoid having with themselves.
You know, when people talk about changing their lives, they usually talk about actions, new habits, new goals, new routines. But very few people talk about honesty.
That's true.
And honestly, I think self-improvement often starts with honesty long before it starts with discipline.
What kind of honesty?
The uncomfortable kind. The kind where you stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what am I actually doing?
That's a very different question.
Completely different. Because most people have clear goals. They know what they want. Better health, better relationships, more confidence, more freedom. The problem usually isn't the goal. The problem is the gap.
The gap between what we say matters and what we spend our days doing.
Exactly. And here's the strange thing. Most people don't intentionally create that gap. They drift into it.
What do you mean by drift?
Imagine you're on a boat. You move the steering wheel 1 degree. That's it. Just 1 degree.
Doesn't sound like much.
It doesn't. For 5 minutes, you won't notice anything. For an hour, maybe not. But after enough time, you're somewhere completely different.
That's actually a little unsettling.
Because life works like that. People worry about catastrophic mistakes, huge failures, massive setbacks. But most lives aren't changed by one dramatic event. They're changed by small directions, repeated for years.
So the danger isn't always crashing. Sometimes it's drifting?
Exactly. And drifting feels safe. That's what makes it dangerous.
What's one form of drifting that's especially common today?
Living in reaction mode.
Reaction mode?
Yeah. Think about an average day. You wake up, check your phone, see a notification, reply to a message, watch a video, read a comment, answer an email, open another app. Before you know it, the day is responding to you instead of you directing the day.
Wow. I've never heard it explained like that.
Most people don't have an attention problem. They have an ownership problem. Everyone is fighting for your attention. Apps, algorithms, advertisements, news, notifications. The question isn't whether your attention will be used. It will.
The real question is who gets to use it.
Exactly. And many people accidentally spend their lives helping other people achieve goals, while slowly forgetting their own.
You know, that reminds me of a question I heard recently, and I couldn't stop thinking about it.
What was it?
If someone watched a video of your last 30 days, what would they think your priorities are?
That's a powerful question.
Because they wouldn't hear our intentions. They wouldn't hear our plans. They wouldn't hear our excuses. They would only see our actions.
Exactly. And sometimes, that's where reality becomes very clear.
Because what we say matters to us, and what we repeatedly do aren't always the same thing.
Right. And that's not a reason to feel guilty. It's a reason to become aware.
Can we talk about distraction for a minute? Because people hear that word all the time, but I feel like there's something deeper there.
I think there is. Most people think distraction steals time, but I don't think time is the biggest thing it steals.
What does it steal?
Clarity.
Clarity?
Yeah. Because the most important decisions in life usually don't happen in busy moments. They happen in quiet moments.
When you're alone with your thoughts.
Exactly. And here's the problem. Many people rarely experience that anymore.
Because there's always something to consume.
Always. A video, a song, a notification, a message. And to be clear, those things aren't bad.
Right. We're literally recording a podcast right now.
Exactly. The issue isn't consumption. The issue is never leaving room for reflection.
That's interesting, because reflection sounds simple, but most people don't do it consistently.
And yet, it might be one of the highest return activities available.
Why?
Because reflection allows you to notice patterns. And once you notice a pattern, you can change it.
But if you never notice it, you keep repeating it.
Exactly. Imagine making the same mistake for 10 years. Not because you wanted to, not because you were incapable of changing, simply because you never stopped long enough to see it.
That's a powerful idea.
The quality of your life is often connected to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And many people are so busy answering everyone else's questions, they never ask their own.
Wow. That's going to stay with me.
Me too. Because every once in a while, life gives us a chance to pause, to look around, and to ask, is this direction actually taking me where I want to go? And that question might change more than people realize.
You know, there's something I've noticed. A lot of people are waiting.
Waiting for what?
A better version of themselves. The disciplined version, the confident version, the motivated version. The version that finally has everything figured out.
That's one of the most common traps, and it's a very convincing one.
Because it sounds reasonable.
Exactly. People think, when I feel ready, I'll start. When I'm more confident, I'll try. When life becomes less busy, I'll focus. But life has a strange habit. It keeps moving.
And that future version never arrives.
Not in the way people imagine. Because confidence isn't usually the cause of action. Very often, it's the result of action.
That's interesting. I think many people believe it's the other way around.
Most do. But if you look closely at almost anything worthwhile in life, you'll find people who started before they felt ready. Not because they were fearless, but because they understood something important.
What's that?
The person they're waiting to become is being built by the choices they're making today.
You know, if someone listening feels stuck right now, maybe overwhelmed, maybe disappointed in themselves, what's one question they should ask?
I'd ask this: what am I repeatedly doing that I already know is hurting me?
That's a powerful question.
Because deep down, most people already know. They know the habit. They know the excuse. They know the pattern.
The problem isn't awareness. It's honesty.
Exactly. And the good news is, you don't have to fix everything. You don't need a completely new life tomorrow.
You just need to stop feeding the thing that's pulling you in the wrong direction.
That's often enough to begin.
I think that's another misconception people have. They're waiting for a breakthrough moment.
A life-changing revelation. A perfect plan. A sudden burst of motivation.
A movie scene.
Exactly. But most lives don't change that way.
How do they change?
Quietly. A different decision today. A better choice tomorrow. A conversation you've been avoiding. A responsibility you finally accept. A habit you finally stop defending.
Nothing dramatic.
Usually not.
the biggest changes often look very ordinary in the moment.
You know, when people hear a title like Stop Destroying Your Life, they probably imagine we're going to talk about massive mistakes, huge failures, catastrophic decisions.
But that's rarely how it happens.
Right. Today's conversation reminded me that self-destruction is often much quieter. It's the things we postpone, the truths we avoid, the distractions we hide behind, the habits we keep excusing.
And that's also good news. Because if small things can slowly damage a life, small things can slowly improve one too.
I like that.
You don't need to become a different person overnight. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to wait for a future version of yourself.
You just need to be honest enough to notice what's happening.
And brave enough to take one small step in a better direction.
So, if there's one thing I'd like everyone listening to remember, it's this. Your life is not shaped only by the big decisions. It's shaped by the small things you repeat, day after day, year after year.
Pay attention to those. They matter more than most people realize.
And maybe tonight, instead of asking, what do I want from life? Ask, what direction am I moving in?
That's a great question.
All right. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for spending this time with us. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.